Hi. Let us conclude the first section of your history book, that is the rise of nationalism in Europe. We have seen how French Revolution influenced the other states in Europe and also in other parts of the world. And countries in Europe, one by one, followed suit with the French form of government and thinking and freedom like that. There were other countries like Germany, Italy, Poland, and the Austro-Hungarian provinces. All of them, one by one, they also started forming independent states. What they wanted was ultimate freedom for the people, freedom of the press, freedom of associations, freedom of assembly, and freedom of movement, and good environment for business and all. It was all led by middle class people and businessmen, artisans, all the common people. So there were so many people to support the common ideology or giving away power to the people. And something very important happened in Germany. That was in the year 1848. To be exact, it was on 18th May 1848. 18th May is important for us also because it was on 18th May 1974 that India tested the first nuclear device in Pokhran under the leadership of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister. 18th May, so it is easy to remember. But this was in the year 1848. The German people, about 831 representatives from various classes of people assembled in Frankfurt. Frankfurt is, one of the most important cities in Germany, one of the most important airports, one of the biggest airports in the world we have in Frankfurt. So all these representatives assembled in Frankfurt and they convened a meeting inside the Church of St. Paul. So they drafted or they adopted a constitution for Germany for the first time. What they wanted was monarchy. They didn't want to do away with kingship, monarchy, but they wanted to have a parliament with control over the kings. That is what they visualized, because in most of the countries we find in Europe, kings were ruling for quite a long time. So it was difficult for people to say goodbye immediately. So this is what they visualized. Then they drafted the constitution, they accepted it, and they tried to get a king to rule them, but it was impossible in the beginning. Some people declined. Then by 1871, after a span of 20 years, they succeeded in this and they got Kaiser William of Prussia. Kaiser William I of Prussia, he was declared as the Emperor of Germany in 1871. So that is how Germany was unified and it became independent. But women still, they were nowhere near the power houses. But still they formed their own clubs and they started printing press and they shouted for voting rights for women, and the women liberation movement was actually started in those days, but still women did not have the voting rights and so on. But it was good that women also formed their own associations to fight for their liberation. Now we can see another important place in Europe, of course, was Italy. It is Italy. Even today, with Pope and all, with the Vatican City there. It is the center of the whole Catholic Church and very important place. But Italy was also divided into 7 states in those days. Like the ancient Greek nation, you remember, they had 7 states originally and they were unified with the Greek War of Independence. Like that, Italy also was in a fragmented condition with the 7 states, and these 7 states were ruled by different organizations and different sections of the society. And one most important of these states was Sardinia Piedmont. This was the only portion ruled by Italian princely rulers. But the northern part was under Austria. The central part of Italy was under the Pope. Even today, Vatican City, the center of Italy, is under the Pope. And the southern states were ruled by Bourbon kings of Spain. So you see, Spanish people, Bourbon kings, Austrians, they were all ruling Italy. The 7 fragments of Italy, the so-called Italy. And there were people who thought of unifying Italy like other nations of Europe. And the most important name that comes to our mind is Giuseppe Mazzini, a leader who dreamed of a unified Italy. He actually formed an association called Young Italy, which captured the imagination of so many young minds, and they formed several clubs all over Italy, and they gave the idea of a unified Italy to the people. Another important name that we have to remember is Chief Minister Cavour. So Mazzini and Cavour, these were the 2 important dignitaries who inspired the people and who ignited the imagination of the young minds, and they started to think of a unified Italy. So by 1861, they could realize their dream, and that also was under a king. So they could not think of doing away with kingship, and under Victor Emmanuel II, he was proclaimed the king of unified Italy. So that was something significant. One by one, nations of Europe, they became independent and they formed their own nationalist states. You may be wondering about Great Britain. We haven't said anything about Britain so far. So Britain always enjoyed an independent condition because Britain is an island. It's a small nation. And the British Channel divides England and France. If you cross the British Channel, you can be in France. But you know why France did not have any influence in Britain? Because French and British people were rivals for quite a long time. In history, there was actually 100 years war between France and England. So nothing there from France will influence. Actually, they hate whatever originates from France. They hate it. They will not support it. So they enjoyed an uninterrupted kind of monarchy from 8th century onwards. Actually, it was King Alfred was the first king of England. He ascended the throne in the 8th century, and even today we know Queen Elizabeth II, she is ruling England, and actually she came to power a long time back. And for more than half a century, or for about 60 plus years, she is on the throne of England. So they adore their kingship, their kings and queens. There was only one instance in the whole of British history when a king was killed. King Charles first was beheaded. There was a kind of little revolution under Oliver Cromwell in England, but that was not. That was only a very insignificant affair in the whole history of Britain. But still, England was not England in that part of the nation. They had actually three nations: Scotland, Ireland, and England. These were independent provinces and states, but they unified. First, England had a treaty with Scotland. Scotland was acceded to England, and later Ireland was also joined to the English nation. So together, three of these, actually Wales, three other provinces were there: Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and England. All these provinces, they joined together and they formed the Great Britain as we know today. This Great Britain was so powerful, they were so dynamic, so challenging. They went all around the world and they formed colonies. So Britain once was very powerful in history when you study world history. So actually in Europe, Britain had a separate stream of growth and ideology, and they were kind of independent from other European nations, but still they had their own form of government, and actually they formed the constitution which was followed by almost all the people of the world. The British Constitution, the British parliamentary system, these were all borrowed by other people, especially the colonies and other nations of the world. So this gives you a fair idea about what Europe was in the early 18th century, 19th century, and it is very good to study the European history. This is only a section, just a small portion of Europe's history in those days, but it is good to study the European history so that we can understand the history of other nations also, because European history is related or that influence a lot of other nations in the world in the years to come.